Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and now that my obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community, and a number of you have linked me a video by Jeff Nippard, who some of you have started nicknaming Jeff Nipples. Oh man, you people and your names. He made a video kind of adding to the series he did for the 6-day-a-week upper-lower split. People ask me what do I think about it, and people who watch the first one know I'm going to give some of the same criticism. So let me go ahead and put on my +5 hat of speechcraft, which many of you are lovingly calling my +5 hat of autism now. Hey man, you might as well own it. So over to the point. All right, Jeff did some really good stuff in this video, and then he had some stuff that was not so good. Jeff has always been one of those mixed bags. He's one of these guys that actually has a lot of really good information, right? He has a lot of good information. A lot of the training programming, I'm going to flip over and be like, Jeff, man, you can't do some of this training programming and then kind of say, oh yeah, I'm natty. Because again, people who work with real lifters are going to be like, bro, that's not going to work. People can't just up the dose. So you got to watch that with some of the programming. And that's not really trying to be such a big call out of Jeff. It's just that it's a problem if people are going to follow this. I'm going to jump into some of the really, really good stuff he said, though, on the exercise selection and the execution of these lifts. He actually had some really good tips, just like little one-liners in there that were actually fantastic, and I'll totally support. And a lot of his exercise selection was fantastic. His first 3 lifts were 3 of my favorite mass-building exercise across the board. Like everyone who's been following me for years knows they're in my top 3. I mean, those are in my top 3 upper body exercises for just getting thick all the way around. And what people need to understand, they would be like, well, Jason, you're a power lifter. But what you guys need to grasp is that when we're talking about these things, hypertrophy is hypertrophy. Everyone is trying to maximize hypertrophy. The only people who are not trying to maximize hypertrophy are the guys who are saying, I don't really want to get big. But aren't they trying to maximize hypertrophy too? Because they don't want to get big compared to a guy on drugs. They probably want to get pretty close to their natural limit. They probably want to get even maybe within 10 pounds of muscle of their natural limit, which means they just need to train hard for 6 months. But even those guys who are only trying to gain a little bit of muscle would still probably rather gain the amount of size they want in 6 months instead of 3 years, right? I mean, realistically speaking, they're still trying to maximize hypertrophy. They could just train really hard for 6 months and then coast for the rest of their life. Never add any weight to the bar or any reps. They're done, right? They just need to get to the ideal size. And if they don't want to be big, they just want to put on, 10 pounds, 15 pounds of muscle. They can train really hard, really efficient for 6 or 7 months, and they're done. And they can just stay at that size forever. That's easy. But everyone else, we're trying to maximize size, and that includes strength athletes. Size equals strength. The only thing that breaks up size equaling strength is your height and your drug stack. That's it. That's the only things that modify that rule. So if you don't ever use drugs and you have no way to change your height or your bone structure, your size and strength are going to be 90% correlated. You can't separate them. So even powerlifters, we're trying to get as big as we possibly can within a weight class. We're trying to add as much muscle to our frame as we possibly can, more so than bodybuilders. A lot of bodybuilders care more about proportions than they do size. Like powerlifters, we don't care if we're ugly as long as we're thick and big enough to lift the damn weight, which means we have to maximize size. We have to prioritize it sometimes, but we're trying to get thick. So, over to the point. The programming is a problem. The programming is a problem due to the fact that it's, again, 6-day-a-week upper-lower split using high volume. So we have high frequency, high volume training. You have to periodize these rep ranges. That is, and I'm telling you straight up as someone who does high frequency training, a lot of high frequency training historically. I train individual lifts anywhere from twice a week up to 6 days a week, historically, right? You guys remember I've done Bulgarian 2 different times for months at a time on camera, which means I'm coming in and hitting max squats every day, max benches every day, max overhead presses every day. I know a little bit about high frequency training, especially with big weights on big exercises. And I can tell you right now, you start doing high frequency training with high volume, you cannot mix rep ranges the way that he's doing it in the same workouts on big lifts. Now you can do it on small lifts, meaning you can come in and train heavier weight on your big lifts and then do smaller movements that aren't going to interfere with it. Right? In other words, doing 15 rep sets of lateral raises or maybe some bicep curls, is probably not going to interfere with your pull-ups or your overhead pressing or your bench pressing. It's not going to interfere with those. But mixing those others together is a problem, and he's doing it 3 times a week. It's like he has a big compound doing 4s, another big compound doing 6s, and another big compound that uses the same muscles mostly as the first one, doing 10, 11, 12, and then doing it 3 times a week. I can tell you guys right now, this is going to work well for about 3 weeks, and then you're going to stall, and you're going to have to add drugs to the stack. You're going to have to up your dose. You're going to have to throw another oral in. You're going to have to do something. It's not going to work for a drug-free lifter other than a ranked novice. And why you got a ranked novice lifting 6 days a week? It's obviously not for them. Novices don't need to be lifting 6 days a week. That's stupid. Absolutely stupid. So over to the point. That's an issue. And he starts with the press. And I can tell you right now, doing high rep benching after doing moderately heavy weight on the press, 4s is moderately heavy. I wouldn't call it real heavy. It's moderate. It's moderate. I like singles. I don't even like to always go 4s. I like 1 to 3, even for periodized work on the press. I'm not saying I haven't done 5s, 8s, things like that. I've done all that on camera. I generally like to run it with very low reps. It's kind of one of the things that he noted too. He's running it with fairly low reps, and it is because of the fact that RPE is very hard to judge on the press. You tend to hit failure instantly. You think you've got 2 reps left in the tank, and you miss a rep all of a sudden. You just flat fail to lock it. That's going to be a problem from a programming perspective. He's got 10 to 12 reps on closed grip bench after doing 4s on the press in the same workout. That is going to be a programming nightmare. It's going to stall. It's going to stall very quickly. It's the press that's going to stall, not the closed grip. The closed grip will do great. The overhead press is going to stall. And again, I can tell Jeff doesn't have a lot of experience going real heavy on the press, and it shows here that he doesn't train the lift as a primary exercise long term. And it's fine. Most people don't. I do. You guys have seen me come in and do a strict press with 225 every day, 5 days in a row, right? I train this lift. I care about this lift a lot. So that's an issue. As far as his execution of it, he needs to improve one of the things. And what I'm going to say there, he notices the thing about his head. All right, this is someone, he's new to the press. You lay back. You don't need to lift your head up, you lay back. You do a layback at the bottom so that you can pause on the chest and then drive it up and then drive your head forward. All right, that clears your head out of the bar path. You don't need to move the bar around your head because you want to press in a straight line mid-foot. You move your head out of the way of the bar. And by doing the layback, what happens? We get more upper chest involved. The standing press is an upper chest exercise. It's not just a shoulder exercise, not just a tricep exercise. Now, granted, it's a fantastic shoulder and tricep exercise. It works the tricep head slightly differently than your bench pressing does. It gets a little more long head. It works the traps. It works the rear delts, works all these things better than most forms of overhead pressing does. The standing barbell press is a fantastic lift. I think it's a mandatory lift. I think everybody should train it. I don't consider it an optional exercise, so I'm glad he started with it. It's in my top 5 lifts all the way around the board for getting big and strong. And I like that he's treating it as a primary lift, but I will say to Jeff, you need to lay back more. Why aren't you trying to get your upper chest big? This exercise is great for that. Lay back a little bit, lean back. And then you move the bar, you press the bar up in a straight line, and then you move your head and torso underneath the bar as it goes up. And then when you get to that lockout, you shrug at the top if you're able to and get a little more trap involved. That's the way to do it, Jeff. You don't have to lift your head, just lay back. Problem solved. But you guys have seen me do that all the time. You guys watch me do this lift regularly on camera. So that's my advice there. Then he goes to the pull-up. His execution of the pull-ups is great. I like the fact that he emphasized the full range of motion. I like the fact that he emphasized the data on the pull-up being better than the lat pull-down. It absolutely is, across the board. Everyone who's trained it knows. We know it makes you thicker. Not just wider, it makes you thicker than a lat pull-down. And he hit that point having to do with erectors, mid-traps, all that stuff. And biceps too. I mean, look at the EMG data. It hits the biceps harder. Pull-up's a fantastic lift. Amazing upper body mass builder. Amazing upper body mass builder. And I like the fact that he hit the bottom. He didn't skip the bottom of the range of motion. I mean, that's important. That's important for your lat development, right? That's important for lat development. Execution of that lift was great. Like, he's got that lift down pat. He's good at it. And I like the way he demonstrated it. We get over to the close grip bench press, same thing. I like the way he did his close grip. I like the fact that he discussed it. People take it too literally. It's meant to be shoulder width, right? Thumbs do not go inside the knurling. You don't go all the way onto the smooth because it hurts your wrist and you don't get more tricep involvement. In fact, it makes it harder to get a full range of motion. I like the fact that he emphasized that point. He executed the lift great. No problems there. The problem we have is with the programming end of it. And that's what we come back around. I don't need to get into all these silly ass supersets and shit. You guys know how I feel about that. You can't claim to be scientific based workout and then do a bunch of silly ass supersets. All right, silly ass supersets are for people who are on a bunch of drugs. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you guys want to use a bunch of drugs and do a bunch of pump work, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not even telling you not to do some high rep work. You guys see me doing up to 20 reps all on face pulls, 20 reps on hammer curls, right? That's fine. If it's programmed correctly into part of your training, you know what you're doing. The issue is the supersets are a waste of damn time. They're silly, they're inefficient. If you need more training volume, do more training volume. Don't try to do supersets to get out of the gym faster and then neglect exercises, because that's what it does. It reduces your performance. It reduces your workload. You're better off doing each exercise individually and training it harder. If you need an extra 30 minutes in the gym because you think you need all these exercises, if you really and truly need all these exercises and you think you're going to benefit from them, whether you are or not, it's going to be a different topic. But if you really believe that, then you will put focus on every exercise you're doing. And you will train it to its limits. You're not going to superset it with other shit. That's stupid. It's stupid and it's weak. And I'll just call it what it is. And the science even supports that. The evidence says it's stupid. So, back over to the point. The close grip. Did it good. The problem is 10 plus reps after doing 4 reps on the press and then doing it every 48 hours, you're absolutely going to stall your press. Your press is going to regress. Your press is going to go up for 3 weeks, and then for most people, most drug-free lifters, their press is going to go down. They're going to start hitting failure on their 3rd rep with what they were doing 4s with the week before. That's what's going to happen. And it's not because the press is the problem per se. It's the fact that you're adding volume on a high rep close grip bench press in the same session afterwards. You can't mix those rep ranges. If you're going to do 4s on the press, do 3 to 4s on the close grip press in the same workout. Don't mix the rep ranges. If you need to do undulating periodization or concurrent periodization, by all means do so. Do not mix these reps on these big exercises together. When you start doing high frequency training like this, particularly when volume goes up, you better be programming the big lifts around some form of periodization, or they will stall, particularly that first lift. That first lift is going to stall, and that's going to be the press, which is arguably possibly the most important exercise in this selection. So that's a programming issue. It's a programming issue, especially for drug-free lifters. So that's the things I don't like. The only other big pro I will give, I like the way he performed the face pulls and explained those also. Again, the overhand grip, that's also the way I like to perform mine, as far as getting the rotation you want in the shoulders, training the rear delt. It's an all-around good prehab movement. I do prefer the way that he executed it, although I use bands personally. The hand position was good, and I think it brings a lot to the table to that exercise. So I actually appreciate the way that he performed that. But back to the main point, the programming itself of this program is going to cause serious plateaus and stalls very frequently. Other than people who are going to be blasting a little bit of gear, and then they can just up the dose to get through a sticking point. But you could do that with programming also. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.